children have been. You are going to back out, you're going to be so proud of me. Now I've got three thank yous to say, remember that. So first of all I want to thank Eden, who is driving visual guy. And secondly I want to thank Mrs. Marshall, she's not in hall at the moment, but she's been working on the music with the children. And thirdly I want to thank Mrs. Craig, who honestly could have pulled me off. Let us take your journey back to the 1970s.
The worrying thing is, does anybody remember the 70s?
No.
Because they make it all really cool, and I'm not sure it was, but I was like, but anyway, enjoy.
And welcome to 60s Class Assembly, based on Britain in the 1970s. As you watch, you will realize that the major events of this decade were absolutely monumental. They both greatly influenced the people at the time and have had a lasting effect even up until today.
Please watch carefully as we will be presenting a fast-forward overview of some of the major events of the decade. As you will soon realize, the 1970s was a period of desperate lows when Britain was literally brought to its knees, and a period of great change and renewal.
As we begin our journey through the 1970s, our first key change in Britain came about on the 15th of February 1971. This was the day when the United Kingdom decimalized its currency. Let's ask our professor of history to tell us more.
State in the United Kingdom, the British pound was made up of 20 shillings, each of which was made up of 12 pence, a total of 240 pence. With decimalisation, the pound was subdivided into 100 new pence, each of which was worth 2.4 old pence. Old and much loved coins such as shillings and half crowns were discontinued.
That must have been a nightmare for children. Shall we see what actually happened? Here are Billy and Mary starting their maths work in school.
Psst, Mary, I don't understand these money problems. It says how many 10-pence pieces are there in a pound? What's in the name of Mr. May is a 10-pence piece? Shouldn't it be shillings?
It's decimalization. Honestly, Billy, if you listened to the teacher more instead of listening to your records, you would know. Shillings are no longer part of our currency. There are now 10 10-pence pieces in a pound and not 20 shillings like it used to be. Oh, and by the way, there are now 10 pence in a 10-pence piece and not 12 pennies in a shilling.
Hang on. Are you seriously trying to tell me that yesterday there were 20 shillings in a pound and today there are 10 pence in a shilling and not 12?
Sort of, though they're not called shillings anymore. They're now called 10-pence pieces. It's called decimalization. Everything's going to be in tens now, not 12s.
What? Even eggs?
No, silly. You can still have a dozen eggs. It's just the money.
But if yesterday there were 20 shillings in a pound and today there are 10, well, where are the other 10?
Maybe the teacher didn't know. She did say she was saving up for a new car. The 1970s saw an increase in social unrest. Many of the old industries, such as coal mining, were no longer profitable, and many nationalized companies were running at a loss.
The cost of living rocketed in the 1970s, and workers refused to work until they were given pay rises. All the workers also struggled to make ends meet. The country was brought to a standstill by strikes, and workers refused to work until they were given pay raises.
Professor, could you explain this in a bit more detail for our audience?
Certainly. Miners went on strike twice in the 1970s. In 1972 and 1974, strikes shut down every coal mine in Britain, and a combination of solidarity strikes by the steel and railway unions brought the country to a standstill. In a time when electricity was almost entirely provided by coal-fired power stations, this led to power cuts, the introduction of the 3-day working week, and the downfall of the Conservative government of Edward Heath.
That must have been really hard for everyone. Let's see what happened.
Now look here, my good sir, we can't possibly raise your wages anymore. The country is not in a position to be handing out pay raises. Maybe in a few years we can take another look.
Oh yeah, but who's going to pay way to the shopping bill and gas bill in main town? You want to mismanage this economy now, we've got to pay for it. Strike, I say, strike! Right, come on lads, do that. Let's see how you like it without any girls.
Now pipe down, my good sir. I'm sure you can make a few adjustments to your weekly shopping bill. Ask your wife to be a little more creative with your leftovers and cut back on your holidays.
Are you having a laugh? First of all, there are no leftovers thanks to the cost of food rising so much. And as for holidays, well, you'll be needing a holiday by the time I finish it. You stuck up old. Now break up, lad, break up. You don't want any trouble here. Best be open before I nick you. I'm sure you don't want to spend the night in the cling.
Wow, that was a bit scary. What happened?
Well, the miners really made an impact upon daily life. All over the country, because of the power cuts, the lights would go out at certain times and children were left to do their homework by candlelight.
So happy there's a power cut tonight, so I figure all of my algebra and I'll blame it on that.
Well, my mom's bought me candles so I can do mine. Ew. Interesting fact. Mary went on to become an astrophysicist, and Billy is now a teacher.
Wow, I had no idea the 1970s were so miserable.
It wasn't all doom and gloom. In the mid-70s, there was a huge party. People from all communities got together to celebrate a very special event.
What? Did England win the World Cup again?
No, silly, we're all still waiting for that. Let me give you a clue. Jubilee of Elizabeth II marked the 25th anniversary of Queen Elizabeth II's accession to the throne of the United Kingdom. It was celebrated with large-scale parties and parades throughout every major city of the United Kingdom, as well as for smaller ones in countless streets and villages throughout the country.
In other words, they had, as Mrs. Crabbe would say, a right royal knees up. Okay, everyone, please stand for Her Royal Highness, Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II.
And I only have another 39 to go before I meet my arch-rival, Queen Victoria.
Your Majesty. The poet Lawrence John Betjeman has written a very special poem to celebrate your Silver Jubilee. The children of 16 will now recite it for you.
Oh, how fabulous!
In days of disillusion, however low we've been, to fire us and inspire us, God gave us our queen.
She exceeded young and dutiful to a much the Father's throne. Serene, kind, and beautiful, she holds us as her own.
And 25 years later, so short her reign has been, that our great events are greater with the presence of our Queen.
From that look of dedication in those eyes profoundly blue, we know her coronation as a sacrament and true.
For our monarch and her people, united yet and free, let the bells from every steeple ring out loud the jubilee.
She's wonderful. She looks just like she does on the stamps. How long do you think she'll go on for?
I imagine she'll call it a day now and let Charles take over.
Yeah, there's no way we're seeing another celebration like this one.
Had they but known, the Queen is currently celebrating her Platinum Jubilee. Aged 95, she has reigned over the country for an amazing 70 years. That's even longer than Mr. Manning's has been teaching.
Well, we've nearly reached the end of the decade. Professor, could you tell us what happened to those angry, striking miners?
Oh, don't be fooled. The miners were on top of the world in the 1970s, able to hold the country to ransom, to stop the closures and raise wages. But striding over the horizon would be the woman who would prove to be their nemesis. Margaret Thatcher.
Prime Minister, as the first female Prime Minister, what is her vision for the country?
Where there is discord, may we bring harmony. Where there is error, may we bring truth. Where there is doubt, may we bring faith. And where there is despair, may we bring hope. And to all the British people, however devoted, may I say this. Now that the election is over, may we get together and strive to serve and strengthen the country of which we're so proud to be part of. Now, let's do what's best for miners.
Professor, was Margaret Thatcher a good Prime Minister?
Well, I couldn't possibly be the judge of that. She was a very controversial figure, which means people have very strong opinions about her.
I heard that some people called her Thatcher the Milk Snatcher because she stopped children from receiving free milk at school.
Yes, but others called her the Iron Lady. She was a strong leader and, as the first British female Prime Minister, a role model for women.
Anyway, that's enough about politics. What this 1970s will really be remembered for is the explosion of different pop cultures. Many people, including Mr. Roycroft, would say that this was the most creative musical decade of them all. From glam rock,